What does Sega Sports, the NBA, and 2K have to do with each other? In this episode of Retroducts, we're going to talk about the evolution of the most successful basketball game franchise, NBA 2K. So what do those three names have to do with each other? Well, first we have to go back to the year 1999, when a small company known as Visual Concept was bought by Sega and created Sega Sports, until 2005, when Sega decided to sell Visual Concepts to Take-Two Interactive for a whopping $24 million. And Take-Two, after that sale, turned Visual Concepts into 2K Sports. So now that you know that, let's get into the main topic, the evolution of the most successful NBA game franchise around, NBA 2K. The very first NBA 2K game was made in 1999 for the Sega Dreamcast and had Allen Iverson on the cover. The first four games had commentary from fictional commentators Bob Steele and Rob West, who were voiced by Bob Fitzgerald and Rod Brooks. In the 2000s, more features were added to the game, starting with NBA 2K1, again featuring Allen Iverson on the cover. However, in this installment of the game, the concept of playing street basketball was added, as well as the ability for the player to manage a team. In 2001 and 2002, the next installment was released called NBA 2K2. This time it was made for the Dreamcast, PlayStation, Xbox, and GameCube, again also featuring Allen Iverson on the cover, and had the NBA roster for 2000 to 2001. But this was the first game in the franchise that brought in players from the past such as Bill Russell, Julius Erving, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird. It was also the first game to be made for multiple consoles, however, it was the last time the NBA 2K franchise would be made for the Dreamcast. In October 2002, NBA 2K3 was released for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube, again featuring Allen Iverson on the cover. Sadly, this was the last time the franchise was making games for the GameCube. Espn Nba Basketball, also known as NBA 2K4, was the first time the 2K label wasn't on the cover, and also the first time the games were branded with the ESPN logo. Other firsts were the 24/7 mode, in which players could create their own player and use it to play in tournaments, and it also featured distinct facial features as well. The game features also commentary from Bob Fitzgerald, Tom Tolbert, and Kevin Frazier, was the host of the pregame show. Sadly, for you, Allen Iverson fans, this was the last time he was featured on the cover. ESPN NBA 2K5, released in September of 2004 for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. This was the last game made under the Sega Sports label before they sold Visual Concepts to Take-Two Interactive and forming 2K Sports. Replacing Allen Iverson on the cover was Bob Wallace. This was the second and last time it had the ESPN branding and featured Stuart Scott as the presentator, Bob Fitzgerald as play-by-play, and Bob Wallace as second commentator, and now Michelle Tafoya on the sideline reporting. NBA 2K6 was released September 2005 for the usual PlayStation 2 and Xbox, and the first in the franchise to come out for the Xbox 360. It featured Shaquille O'Neal on the cover, who was also a big part with the motion capture in the game. The commentary team consisted of Kevin Harlan, Kevin Smith, and Craig Seeker as the sideline reporter, and for the next few games they stayed the same. NBA 2K7 was released in September 2006 for the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox, and 360. It was the first time the series came on the PlayStation 3, and the last one to come out for the original Xbox. Again, Shaquille O'Neal was featured on the cover. However, before this point, the soundtrack for the game was made for each game. 2K7, however, was the first to have a licensed soundtrack made by Dan the Automator, who also made a CD soundtrack called Dan the Automator Presents 2K. NBA 2K8, released in September 2007, and replacing Shaq on the cover was Chris Paul, and had added a slam dunk contest as part of the game, and 23 licensed songs as a soundtrack. NBA 2K9, released October of 2008 for the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, and the Xbox 360, and for the first time, Microsoft Windows, replacing Chris Paul on the cover was Kevin Garnett, and the commentary team for NBA 2K6 was replaced by Clark Kellogg and Cheryl Miller as the sideline reporter. NBA 2K10 released October 2009 for the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Microsoft Windows, but was also released for the first time on PlayStation Portable and Nintendo Wii, which made it the first game since 2K3 to be released for a Nintendo console. Replacing Kobe Bryant was Kevin Garnett on the cover, but fans got to vote on who was to be featured out of the four. If you missed 24/7 mode, it was remade on this installment as My Player, which became the mainstay for the game for years to come, but retitled as My Career. The commentary team was the same as 2K9, however replacing Miller on the sidelines with Doris Burke. The soundtrack now consisted of 30 licensed songs. In addition to 2K, there was also NBA 2K10 Anniversary Edition. This one featured Derrick Rose on the cover, and in true special edition fashion, it came with a Kobe Bryant figure, and a demo of PlayStation Network and Xbox Live prior to the release of NBA 2K10 Draft Combine. NBA 2K11 released on October 2011 for the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii, PlayStation Portable, and Microsoft Windows. Replacing Kobe Bryant on the cover was Michael Jordan, and it featured a mode called the Jordan Challenge, which had players replicate some of Jordan's most memorable plays, such as scoring 69 points in a game, and it also featured a historic NBA teams and players. The commentary team was the same as the previous years. NBA 2K12 released October 2011 for PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PlayStation Portable, Nintendo Wii, Windows. However, this was the first game to be released for iOS. Depending on what copy of the game you got, you ended up with one of three players on the cover, either Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, or Larry Bird. This one had a new feature you could choose from: historic players and teams. Joining Kellogg and Harlan was Steve Carr for commentary, with Doris Burke still on the sidelines, and thus the main commentary team for the rest of the games. Prior to the full release of the game, a demo for it came out. NBA 2K13 released somewhere between September or October 2012 for PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, Android, Windows. It was the final game to be released for PlayStation Portable and Wii. However, the release of the Wii U, it was also one of the launch titles in both US and PAL formats. The players featured on the cover were Blake Griffin, Kevin Durant, and Derrick Rose. This year, My Team was introduced, which allowed players to create their own fantasy team and compete with other teams. JC helped produce the game as well as curated the music for it. NBA 2K14 released in October and November of 2013 for PlayStation 3 and 4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One, as well as Windows and iOS and Android. This featured LeBron James on the cover, who has also created some of the music as well, and introduced EuroLeague teams as well, and a mode called The Park, where players could take their My Player and play on different courts. NBA 2K15 released October 2014 with Kevin Durant replacing LeBron James on the cover. It also had a pre-game show with Ernie Johnson and Shaquille O'Neal. One notable feature was the ability for players to scan their own image and use it on their own My Player. NBA 2K16 released September 29th of 2015. This one featured 7 different players on the cover, and they were Stephen Curry, James Harden, Anthony Davis, Michael Jordan, Pau and Marc Gasol, Dennis Schroeder, and Tony Parker. The mid-game commentary was the same, however. Replacing Carr was Greg Anthony and Kenny Smith, joined by Shaquille O'Neal and Johnson. Director Spike Lee helped develop My Career, and an accompanying app was released alongside it as well. NBA 2K17 was released September 2016 with an accompanied app as well. It featured Paul George, Kobe Bryant, Delana Delani, Pau Gasol, all on the cover, and an overhauled commentary team consisting of Kevin Harlan, Clark Kellogg, Greg Anthony, Brent Berry, Chris Webber, and Steve Smith, while David Aldridge replaces Burke as a sideline reporter. NBA 2K19 was released on September 11, 2018, and featured LeBron James on the 20th Anniversary Edition and Giannis Antetokounmpo on the Standard Edition. However, if you were in Australia and New Zealand, you get Ben Simpson. The same guest commentator, Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett. However, Bill Simmons was added for the commentary team. NBA 2K20 released to September 2019. Guest commentators were the same, however, after Kobe's tragic death, he was then removed. It was also the first time to feature 13 WNBA teams. NBA 2K21, released September of 2020 and featured on the current generation consoles was Damian Lillard, and on the next generation had Zion Williamson, and on the Legend Edition had Kobe Bryant. Now we are onto the current release of the game, 2K22, featuring Luka Doncic on the cover. I am currently playing this one off and on, and I do have to say I am enjoying the game overall. At this point, this ends part 1 of the evolution of the NBA 2K games. However, stay tuned for part 2, which will go over the infamous NBA 2K curse. Until then, I am Paul saying peace out and stay frosty.